One chance, one life, one take.
Hello and welcome to the Dead Funny, Dead Serious podcast. My name is Mitzi. I'm the host. 30 End of Life Doulas in 30 days. Our End of Life Doula today is Nathalie Bonafé. And hello.
Hello, Mitzi.
Thanks for being here and taking time out today. We're excited to have you. Nathalie is coming to us from New Haven, Connecticut. Let's just roll right in to your why. Why did you become an End of Life Doula?
So I thought about it, and the very short response in just a few words would be that I actually needed to find my purpose. And I pose. But other than that, a little bit of a longer story, so you understand what I meant, is that, so I'm 53 years old, to give you an idea, and by my late 40s, I had already spent about 25 years of a career in biomedical research. So 20 years in the US, 5 years in France. That's where I got my PhD in biology and health. So I come from science, I come from biology. And in biology, we talk about life and death. So when I moved to the US, I was in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and I worked at NIH, I worked at Yale, I'd worked in the biotech industry, designing things that we talk about now, like vaccines or cancer therapies. And I really loved solving very complex problems in the interdisciplinary teams, and using a variety of approaches. And so by the age of 46, I reached the glass ceiling. And I really didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that I could not grow in the place where I was, and I could not grow in the way that was that could make me happy and fulfilled. So I started looking at what I was missing, the design thinking approach. And what I realized I was missing where I was is, one, a sense of belonging to a community. And the second one is I could not be kind. I could not be kind in the lab, in the biotech industry. It's just not very easy. It's not very easy. And I realized why. It's because I had been an empath all this time. And I really felt like I needed that connection, but I didn't know I was an empath. I often felt like I had this imposter syndrome, where, you know, everybody was very straight, and there was very little room for empathy and real powerful collaboration. So that's what I was missing. But I cared about life, and death is part of life. So after a couple of, difficult times, by the age of, 46, starting to have some life experience and losses and grief building, I came across in 2000, at the end of 2015, I came across a training, actually somewhere in Connecticut, of level 1 endoflife doula training, the free community training by Suzanne O'Brien. Suzanne was in New York, and she's part of Caregivers, and she was my first connection to the field. And I got hooked. I was like, this is it. I mean, I don't know if I got hooked, but when I first heard of the end-of-life doula concept and movement, I knew that this was for me, because it employed and the analytical skills and the compassionate, empathetic skills that I knew I had, but I had not really tackled. So that's when I got trained. But before I could serve others, which is a different concept, I knew I wanted to serve others and to be part of that community. But before I could serve others, I had to work on myself, on my own fears, my own resistance, my fear of death, and my grief. And the training took a fair amount of time, because I had to do the work. I had to do the work, and I had to learn to believe in myself and my own capacity before I could really serve others. So that's what happened.
Interesting. Before you said that, on paper, it would be, oh, that's a big jump from a science field to end of life doula. But when you explain it, it makes complete sense that this is life and death. Being an empath in the science field would be difficult to make meaningful connections.
I was looking for meaning. I wanted to be able to have a life that I was happy with, to have a legacy. Where am I going? Who am I? Very French thing. Philosophical. So it took me, so I took the training in 2016, and I took other trainings afterwards because I don't particularly believe that we become doula overnight. That's my opinion. I think we really have to dig into who we are and what we want to do, acquire the knowledge, and really, truly do the work ourselves, as I explained it. So it took about 3-4 months to get through the end-of-life doula training. But with Suzanne, I took also the elder care doula because I wanted to be able to get to know people a lot earlier, the very deathbed. I have elderly parents. I've taken care of my grandmother. I mean, I know the importance of really nurturing there. So, and I also did the training to become a care consultant, where we can do end-of-life planning discussions, facilitations, from early on. And currently, I serve people from, millennials to baby boomers in terms of education. And then some of my patients are older than that, my parents' age. So it's really generational. So I do end-of-life planning, caregiver coaching, and I really specialize in women. So I found my niche because I'm a proud woman in menopause, perimenopause. I made the link, about a couple of years ago. I made the link between the work that we have to do to overcome our fears of death, and the transition that also happens at midlife for women. And I got there because most of my clients were women. I have also been a hospice volunteer for 5 years now, except for last year, didn't do any work, but I've resumed. So that was really instrumental to my education, because we really don't stop learning, in my opinion, because we learn with every family, every person we coach or we witness. And so the learning really doesn't stop. That's why I said we don't become doulas overnight. It's the knowledge plus the experience comes.
Can you say a little bit more about, I believe I've seen such great things from you on social media about, is it menopause doula or is it menopause coach, or both?
I think it's a little bit of both, and I got there for various reasons. It's because of the importance of menopause in women's life and the way we age, the way we age and the way we die. I mean, if we do the right things, or if we miss some things, we may be able to have the consequences later with some chronic diseases. And we have that possibility to get educated at midlife, at a time where already our brains are changing because of the change in hormones. Alzheimer's is also very, very, well, 2 out of 3 people are women with Alzheimer's at the end of life. So, and it has been linked to some of the hormonal changes at midlife. So I wanted to be able to empower my clients a lot earlier. Turns out the caregivers that I often coach, for the end of life of their loved ones, are often women, and are often women between perimenopause and postmenopause, and they need support. So I think I've become a natural menopause doula on the top of being an end-of-life doula, because I see the need for the caregivers. And it's a form of coaching, but doulaing is also coaching. So yeah, I can be a menopause doula.
I think it's fascinating, and it just makes a ton of sense. Mostly caregivers of older adults or the dying are women.
And I mean, one of my current clients is somebody in her 40s, very young, actually very early 40s, and she just lost her mother like a year ago, and I was her end-of-life doula, virtual one. And now she's looking at, you know, really doing her end-of-life planning and organizing her life and making sure that she leaves a legacy for her children. And I mean, it's totally connected. But that's why I think it's more a form of coaching. It works. I think we all need coaching. And the transition, you were asking me, well, you will ask me at some point, what are the challenges? And I think we can integrate it there, is that the challenges were really for me, for me. So that's why I serve the people in my case, in the similar situations, is one, finding our own voice. So I had a hard time finding my own voice because of where I come from, and really shifting the mindset between wanting to understand everything or to control everything from the scientist mind, scientific reasoning, to the businesswoman. I mean, you don't start a business overnight, especially when, you know, you've been employed before. It takes really a shifting of mindset and how I organize my time and how I value my time. And that's what I transmit to my clients too, whether it's at midlife or whether it's at end of life. It's like, how do you want to live the rest of your life?
Excellent. We moved right into the challenges, and that is a challenge, being a business working with a challenging and difficult topic, which is end of life. It's been a big part of this series. It's a big part of my work because it's not easy to bring up this topic. It's not easy to understand everyone's place, and end of life doulas are rather new, and we're educating the public on what that looks like, and other businesses in the interdisciplinary fields about what end-of-life doulas do. What other challenges have you found?
So being an entrepreneur would be to really, the biggest challenge is to value my time. And because historically we know that women have been the normal caregivers, you know, for during childhood, when women have children, which I don't have. It doesn't mean I don't know how it works. So natural caregivers for the children, natural caregivers for the parents, the siblings down. And that's where I think that we need support to learn to do that, to value our time and not to give without receiving. And that's a natural process for starting a business, which I did not learn in graduate school. And so that was a challenge. But I also, out of the challenge, I also saw the amazing opportunity to really work on my neuroflexibility, neuroplasticity, which is so important for preventing, you know, brain diseases, cognitive diseases down the road. And I was able to really also help my sister, who's older, and my mom, my niece, in doing that. So it's very subtle. That was the main, the time management I really had to learn. And also society does not value caregivers' time. I mean, caregivers, whether they are mothers, fathers as well, I'm generalizing with women, but, you know, parents and children later on in life, just like not valued. CNAs in nursing homes are not terribly valued, and yet they are the ones who are the closest to the patients and the families, who touch and provide this supportive companionship, presence, you know, supportive presence, companionship, and we really get to touch people emotionally and physically too, which we all need. The second thing was to overcome my, and it's related, my imposter syndrome. So who am I to tell anybody how to die well? Who am I? I mean, do I have the right? And that's why I've also learned not to, that's why I don't teach people. I don't teach, I don't give classes because of who I am. I prefer to coach and doula people in that really supportive, tight, autonomic approach. And that's been challenging because from where I come, we tell people what to do. Where I come from, yeah. So it's that challenge, but I think I'm getting there.
The two pieces that I really want to highlight: caregivers are not valued. I worked in assisted living for years while I was getting a master's degree in family therapy with older adults as a focus. And I was watching as the caregivers are such an integral part of the existence of everyone, every resident. And they were not valued. They were overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. And they're part of the system when it comes to everything that we're doing. And I just love them so much and value them so much. And if we can put that on the table so people can hear that and remember that and start working to advocate for them. Yes.
Yes. And interestingly, it's starting to develop because of my link between, caregiving, women, and menopause, knowing also how the nursing homes and, assisted living facilities function. There is a lot of turnover because women, caregivers, employees are very burned out. And I'm not even touching about the nurses and the physicians. That's another discussion. But I think they are. So I'm developing this program for menopause at the workplace to really help these people. It's coming.
All right. I'll be waiting. And then the other piece that I want to go back to, the imposter syndrome. Thank you for sharing that. I do know a lot of people that have taken the training and then they don't feel confident enough to call themselves an end-of-life doula or to do the work. And I think imposter syndrome is a big piece of that. I think not having adequate or access to trainings or the correct trainings to make them feel confident is part of it, but doing the work, the internal work. Thank you for sharing that.
And I actually during my own training, I coached younger doulas, and it was part of Suzanne's training approach. I also took other trainings with Deanna Cochrane, quality of life care. So I also have connections with other training programs, and a lot of it is supporting one another. Like when we are on a case, having that community, being able to support one another is very important. So actually people come to me and say, hey, I want to be a doula, and I provide them with that little coaching, right at the beginning, where I really listen to them and I help them, choose the right program for them based on their finances. And it's a very little part of my business, but I still have some time to do that. Plus, it's fun to see people grow and find themselves. And I think it's of value, because what if it's just the imposter syndrome? What if just, women are not capable of doing that? So if I can contribute, pushing and lifting other women, I do it. It's just a little push whenever they want. And I think that's what I needed at the time. And I have taken all sorts of coaching in between throughout, these years of development. And I would not have been able to do it without the support of others. So we need each other.
So hopefully people that are needing that extra push to even know that imposter syndrome is normal in this work, that questioning, that coming from one field and moving into the other, still hard, still difficult, and still possible. It's hard and it's possible.
Yes, it's a mind shift. I mean, you know that in your own work, but if we don't apply it, we can't be fully of service of others and value our work. And we cannot be in the community unless we overcome that. We cannot serve our own parents and families unless we overcome that. Am I of value? Do they want my help? Do they not want? Yeah.
So we're rolling into the final question, my favorite question, I think. Now I like all of the questions. I'm lying. What are your hopes for the field of end of life doulas and or your business as well?
So, if you had asked me the question 2-3 years ago, I may have been a little bit dry. I would not have had a very good answer. But I think my hopes are really developing, and just I have seen a huge difference between, in 2016, when I was telling in my community that I'm training to be an end of life doula, and I talk about death, where people, like a lot more people know what doulas are, especially in Connecticut. We have also the birth doulas that are very active in getting to be reimbursed by insurances. I think this is wonderful, especially in a very diverse state, where every woman has the right to give birth in the best conditions. I do believe what I've learned, early on with Suzanne or later on with Deanna, that we all have the right to live and to die well, according to our own values. It's really a human right, very much like birthing, right? So I think I have seen not just the field develop, but I have seen, nursing homes, attorneys, financial advisors, psychologists in business, kind of like now know what an end-of-life doula are. They may not know, but they have heard of it, because there is so much going on. It could be confusing with what's going on. So a lot of people, we do not have a license, state license or government license. And it could be difficult. And because of the lack of license, we are not going to get the recognition that we deserve very quickly. On the other hand, we have without a license, we have a lot more power to act wherever there is a need, without being associated with a big institution or an insurance company or the healthcare system. So it really has its benefits. In terms of accessibility, yes, it's out of pocket. I still believe that it can be planned for, and it should be able to we should be able to help pretty much anybody who wants it. We can easily adjust the prices. We can, work with families. I have people who barter with me. There are always ways to do it. Because we are not licensed, yes, other people can do the same work that we do. We just have to believe in ourselves. I think there is hope. But it's going to take some time still. I think we've come a long way already in the past 4 years. It will take a little bit more work. And again, I don't think we become end-of-life doulas overnight.
Agreed. We have a lot of room to grow and a lot of space to have this conversation and welcome people into it. And it sounds like you're doing great work. And also the menopause piece is another piece of it, of starting that conversation.
It is an earlier piece, and I actually run both death cafes and menopause cafes that are coming from the UK. And so far, I'm the only one in the US to do it. And it's been, yeah, I love the people from Scotland. That would be another conversation, Mitzi.
Yes. I'd never heard that before. I run a death cafe and I've never heard Menopause Cafe. So you just got a gold star for introducing.
Well, thank you. But Mitzi, you brought up something that was very crucial in my including the menopause work, because I'm also a scientist. I can look at the holistic aspect and I can read the data, and I work with physicians, and, I've trained physicians. So I've worked in the OBGYN at Yale, department at Yale. So for me, I have a lot more to add than just the doula part. I have the scientific access, and I'm part of the North American Menopause Society now as a scientist and coach. But one thing you mentioned that is really, did you know that death anxiety is more prominent in women at midlife? It comes back more prominently in women. It is.
Wow.
It is not a lot of people know that, but the anxiety around death really comes back as we are changed by the hormones fluctuating in our body. It was as teenagers and now as in midlife, at midlife. Again, I'm not talking about men, but I'm sure it happens to a certain degree, but women are more susceptible to it.
Oh, that is
I know.
good. That is good. And it even makes it more sense that working with menopause, that it's important to have that conversation and start planting those seeds if that anxiety is bubbling up, to address it right there.
And if we can, facilitate at that level, we really minimize the traumas down the road for everybody. Not that, there will always be traumas, but and so you're not going to be out of work. But there is so much trauma that if we could minimize just a little bit, in certain places, we could really help, overcome some of the tensions we have in the world.
Beautiful. That is the reason I do the work, because I'm like, if I can get one person to have a little bit more education so they don't have that one trauma, it's still going to be traumatic.
But it's for the next generations. You can see that we know where trauma is coming from. It starts, it's intergenerational. Let's help a little bit ease all of this for everybody. That's my point.
Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, that was so good. All right, Nathalie, thank you so much for being here. Your business is A Gentler Parting, and all your information is going to be in the show notes. You are on Instagram, so follow Nathalie on Instagram, because then you'll get all the information on when the menopause webinars are coming up.
It's easy to find me. It's nathaliebonafé.com.
And I appreciate everything that you brought to this. Thank you.
And I really appreciate your facilitating the conversations between all of us. And I look forward to continuing, growing together and supporting one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks to all the listeners of this podcast. It would mean the world to us if you subscribed or liked or left a comment. Please do one of those things. And then once you're done with that, hop on over, like us on Instagram or TikTok or both. That is all. And we will see you in the next one.